Zendaya, Josh, Mike. Actually, let me do that again. Great start. Let me try that again. Zendaya, Mike, Josh.
Nice.
Welcome to 7:30.
Thanks.
Only took one rehearsal. It is very unusual for us to interview 3 actors at once, but okay, it's a love triangle, so it makes sense, right? So let's start with that. Zendaya, what was the appeal of this film to you?
Oh man, I think there was many things. I just remember reading it for the first time, and it I have a hard time like reading scripts. I don't know if you guys have that. I just immediately you kind of either know whether it connects with you or not, and this is something that like I couldn't stop like turning the page and wanting to know. And I felt like every time I read it, I felt differently about my character, about their characters, and there was just so much being said on the page, but I think also so much that was unsaid.
You just said it was a page turner because you wanted to know what happened. So did you want to know who you ended up with?
I wanted to know everything.
Yeah.
I think I'm still confused. I think
Me
every
too.
time I watch it, I'm like, what? I question their decisions. I'm wondering why they make the choices that they make, and I think that's what's so fascinating about it. And every time I watch it, I empathize with a different character.
Now, of course, in the film, your character, Tashi Duncan, is obviously the kind of sun that has this gravitational pull for these two. You tell me who your character, Tashi Duncan, is.
Who is she? Complicated, to say the least. I think she's, she's a go-getter, and I think she's very, I don't know, I guess you say ruthless in the way that she goes after the things she wants and needs. And I think I often say that like that tennis really is just like a metaphor, and it's a, outlet in which they use to just stay connected to each other. And depend on each other and wield power over each other and hurt each other. And yeah, I just think that she's, I don't know, incredibly complicated.
Josh, what about you? Just tell me about the experience of working with Luca.
Yeah, I mean, we were all I think we were also obsessed with the script, and we had we were really fortunate to have a really good prep period on it. So I think we were training for like 4 or 5 weeks or something.
I think it was 6.
6 weeks. And we would train in the morning and then we'd rehearse. And so we'd all sit around a table, which is really rare for a film generally, but particularly something like this. And we would just kind of like bash through the scenes, and Luke would throw stuff at us and we'd throw it back or do what he told us to do. And so, yeah, it was like kind of thrilling. I feel like it was such a mad experience in terms of the script is like a drug from the beginning to end. It's like a shotgun's sent off and then it just rides through. And I sort of felt like that with the whole shooting process. Every day was like we were not rushing through it, but felt like we were achieving so much so quickly.
You just referred to the tennis. Of course, this is a tennis movie, and you 3 incredibly had to learn to play tennis. I know it's not the first time it's ever been done, but still to get from not being brilliant tennis players to tennis players who can look real on stage.
Zendaya had been, that was gonna be her other career choice.
Yeah,
She was,
the people
yeah.
didn't know.
Don't talk down to her about that.
Well, but talk about you, because actually the director says that you were extremely intense in your preparation. Is that not true?
He was the most.
Mike's the best
Yeah,
tennis player.
he
There's
was,
no two ways about it.
Yeah, he was better from the beginning. Yeah. And also like
A lot better.
a lot better from the beginning. And definitely I think fairly enough outworked us in many aspects.
But Mike, were you able to turn yourself mentally into an elite athlete? Because that's very different to a couple of respectable ground strokes and a bit of a volley.
Fair. That's a good question. I think that there's actually more similarities than there are differences in that regard, and maybe you guys can kind of find that's at least how I was able to, I think, connect to my character in the sense of what was going on in his head, and that kind of, when you choose to do something that you're passionate about and you choose to pursue it to excellence and to like the highest caliber, which is what we're all trying to do, with what we do, there's a similar mentality with it regardless. And so I understood the desire to get better. I understood the love for it. I also understood the not, the falling out of love with it, I think, is a big part of it as well, and the complications that go along, and when life happens too. So for me, at least, the mental part of it was probably the easiest thing.
But did the physical help you get to the mental?
You know, her mindset is very different from mine. Okay, we are very, very different, and I think, like you said, it's finding your way into different characters, right? So while the circumstances and the choices that they make in life may be very different, where do we connect? And I think the connection, that I felt for her is this idea of grief and loss of a career and a life that she thought she was going to have. And this idea that if there was a world where my life, my career, or whatever was taken away from me before I really got an opportunity to do what I love to do, I really empathized with that loss and that idea. And I think ultimately that's what she's grappling with in a much messier way than I think I would. But ultimately that's how I found her.
We come back to the relationship between the three of you. As we know, Guadagnino uses sexual attraction in his films. It flows in this film back and forward and backwards between the three of you in an extraordinarily powerful way. You get this question. How does he, because you're English,
Over
I've
to you.
chosen you, how does he work with you on the intimate scenes, in the sensual sexual scenes? How does it work?
Well, I think in some way, I mean, the
As a
film.
director, I mean.
Yeah.
Crack my neck.
You think minute?
I'm so
You need a
sorry.
chiropractor? We can get one.
Sorry, continue.
Meanwhile, back on the essential,
sorry.
intimate.
Well, I mean, I feel like the film generally is kind of madly intimate, whether it's the traditional intimate scenes or the tennis playing. Like, actually, arguably, the most intimate the three of them is when they're on the tennis court. And I think that was always clear in Justin's script, but I think Luca really got that from day one and had a real sense of like, and that really comes across in the film, this sense of finding that intimacy and that sexiness of when they're on the court and kind of battling against each other. And I think that's why, as Z said, there's a kind of like, the coming together of the three of them at the end feels so much about intimacy.
I was listening, trying to find you talking about different parts of your career, and I heard you say that you used to be a very, very shy child.
I am still, yeah.
Are you still?
Absolutely, yeah. No, this is all an act. No. But it's true. I mean, I am an actor, and and I think fashion in many ways is like the shield, the guard. It's the thing to like become a character, to come out here and do the interviews and do the things, and then I take it off, and I'm, they've seen the the other version, which
That's
is
the thing that's like really common with actors. I think, more often than not, we are putting on like a face. It's really hard. Most actors that I've come across, we're all kind of deeply insecure and trying to find stuff about ourselves and hide stuff about ourselves and playing characters that kind of don't reveal us so much.
Zenda, was there anything in Tashi Duncan that you took away from her, that creation of the screenwriter? Or were you happy to let her go?
I think it's fun in the sense of, she's just so blunt and straightforward and unapologetic, and I am not that. I think, I am most often terrified of hurting other people's feelings or
But it's within
making
you.
someone else feel.
But that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
It's within you.
Yeah,
And that's
I
where
guess.
it's like, well, let me explore that muscle.
feels like.
Yeah, and you don't have
to
to
rip
carry-
someone down.
Yeah, but you don't have to, like,
don't have
you
to
know
do-
what I
yeah,
mean?
it's
Like,
just
actually,
pretend.
yeah, and it's like, well, let me flex that and, like, see what that is.
Yeah.
And it's a nice thing.
Yeah, I guess so.
You've brought us an extraordinary film, and the relationship that you can still see between you is part of what we can see on film, and it's an extraordinarily intense thing to watch in the film and a pleasure to see it in real life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike,
Thank you so
Zendaya,
much.
Josh, thank you very much indeed.
Zendaya,
We got it.